Hello, Christelle Robinson-Tiedemann here, aka Bree. I'm a certified human design analyst and life coach, and this is HT Thursday. This is a weekly human design learning segment inspired by my membership, the Collective Perspective membership. And in our membership community, we are all about cultivating internal leadership. We do it through human design experimentation, of course, but mostly it's centered on the art of contemplation. Basically, what we practice is bringing the unconscious into the conscious and learning through lived experience. If you enjoy this, you will probably very much enjoy my Collective Perspective membership. We are all about walking in our authentic alignment. Welcome. Happy Thursday. It is so nice to see you. Let me know who's here. Say hi as you're coming in. Let us know your type, maybe your authority. How long have you been in your human design experimentation? I hope you have a wonderful beverage. Cheers. Let me take a sip. Get comfy. Grab something yummy to drink. I'm so excited about tonight. So before we jump into it, actually, let me make sure that I am live. Sound is on. Yes, we are all good. So before we jump into it, I highly recommend that you follow along looking at your human design body graph. Okay. So I made it really easy for you. All you have to do is head on into the description box. There is a link in there for a human design engine. Type in your birth information. You can pull up your chart and follow along. So all you're going to need is your birth date. You're going to need your exact time of birth, including the date, of course. You're going to need the city and the country that you were born in. Put that in, pull up your chart, have it in front of you, and this will be even more fun. Do you guys love my glass? Look at this. How beautiful is this? This is hand blown. This is a hand blown French glass. My mom gave me this set and I'm obsessed with it. One of the things I'm loving about HT Thursday is that I get to use my fancy glasses. So as we are doing that, I'm going to start with what we always start with, which is self in practice. Our topic for today is the emotional authority. So we are jumping off with a new series. This is call number 1 in a series, the authority series, where we're going to cover the fundamentals, the basics, what it is that you need to know in order to really understand and operate in your design. And your authority is one of the main pillars of your human design body graph. And one of my first HT Thursdays that I did was called the 4 pillars of your human design body graph. And that is an excellent session to look back at. And you'll understand how important the authority is. And it talks about more about like, what does it mean? What does your authority mean? So in this session, we're going to actually go into the nitty gritty of the authorities. Like we're going to take one call per authority. We're going to dive deep. But if you want like the foundation of what even authority is, then go back to those. And I'm super excited. And something that happens a lot in my world is whatever it is that I'm working on for myself, or whatever it is that I feel the calling to share. So whether that's inside of my community, whether that's in a master class, whether that's in an offer, whether that's in something that's coming up with one-on-one clients, it always manifests in my life as well as an area that I can deepen through my own lived experience. And this is one of the reasons I created the Collective Perspective membership, is because I think that nothing really integrates until we live it. And so this self in practice segment is all about me sharing with you whatever it is that's coming up in my life, but it always perfectly correlates to whatever we're focusing on. And so this week, for self in practice, what I want to share is the concept of putting ourselves in someone else's shoes. I really had the opportunity to do that this week. And that's so simple, right? We've all heard of this, put yourself in someone else's shoes. But at the core of the science of differentiation, which is what human design is the science of differentiation. It's the science of teaching us that we all are extremely unique and individual human beings. And our power and impact lies in our ability to be our authentic selves. But we are homogenized. We are conditioned. We are taught. We are raised. We are formed into being like everyone else. And truly, this is where we lose exactly what it is, like the juice, the magic of what we have to offer the world. We actually lose it in not being ourselves and in being someone else and trying to be someone else, because you actually can't, right? So in attempting to mimic others and not be ourselves, we lose our magic. And so at the core of that is this idea and this respect, something that I learned when I started diving into the world of human design. Something that I learned was the power of seeing the uniqueness in myself and seeing the uniqueness in others. It really led to a lot of compassion. My puppy is right here beside me. Sales. Sorry, she's dreaming out loud. If you're gonna stay in here, Mama, you can't do that. Okay. So this week I took my coworker of over a decade out for her birthday, and we went out right after work, and I told my husband that, like, we won't be out that long. It's a work night. Like, I had to go to work the next morning. So we got to where we're going at 5:00. I had messaged him on arrival and been like, we're here, see you later, let you know when I'm heading home. And I had told him the night before, okay, I'll be home probably around like 8:30. I figured, maximum we'll be there like 3 hours, take me half an hour to get home, blah, blah, blah. Well, after massive, it was like, this place specializes in margaritas. After a 32-ounce margarita, giant margaritas, Jessica and I, we just doing this and doing this and doing this. Time freaking flew by. I am not a very check my phone kind of person. Maybe it's the ADHD, maybe it's I don't know, the passion. But apparently something just hit me at a certain moment where I was like, my hand actually reached for my phone before my brain even figured out what I was doing. And as I reached for it, my husband was calling me. And it was 11 p.m. at night. It had been 6 hours. And the poor man was freaking out, like he was ready to call the police. Literally freaking out. Like, I messed up. So he was so worried. He was so stressed, and to complicate it all, like, he was going on a business trip the next morning, flying out really early. So he needed to go to bed early, but he couldn't even sleep because he was worried sick about me. He's like searching for my coworker's email to be like, he could, like, it's unlike me, and I'm not even a really go out person. So this is not like, oh, this happens all the time. No, he had no contacts. He thought it was dead. Oh my God. And I had this experience of feeling so innocent in my own experience, because we were just doing this, bumping our gums. We were just bumping our gums. We got so caught up in the tea that 6 hours went by. You would think that somebody that you see got almost every single day, you spend probably more time with than your partner, you wouldn't have that much to talk about. Well, that is not the case with us. We were just doing this, and 6 freaking hours went by. So there was so much innocence in my experience, but I also put myself in his shoes and felt like, oh my God, I completely understand his worry. I completely understand how upset he was, how worried he was, how scared he was, how like fucked up he felt. You know what I mean? Like, oh my God. And it really lingered with me, because I knew that we were doing the emotional authority series, right? We're doing the emotional authority session today. And we're going to get into it in a second, but half of us have an emotional authority. Half of us have our emotion centers defined, and approximately half of us don't. And the beauty in that is that there are half of us who create emotion and half of us who are here to experience that. Whenever you have an open center, you absorb and you amplify. It's empathy. It's what it is. You absorb and you amplify the experience of another person who is defined. And so half of us are here creating and putting out emotions. Another half of us are experiencing those emotions. And as a person with an open emotional center, the challenge for us with open emotional centers, we are very uncomfortable in other people's emotions. It feels strange and it feels uncomfortable and it feels ick. And it's just like, ugh, like get away, get out. Like, I don't want to feel this. Like, stop, please. This can be the reactive experience. But the truth is, our work with open emotional centers is to be able to understand when we're feeling what is ours and when we're feeling what is someone else's, and have compassion and hold compassion, hold understanding for other people's emotions, because that is simply a part of who they're here, who they're meant to be. And of course, I was set up this week with the perfect experience. It was a completely different thing. It had nothing to do with, well, I mean, the truth is my husband is emotional. And so I am an open emotional center, feeling the extreme emotions of this person in that moment. That very much was that experience of being so uncomfortable, but also because I know that, like, what I did, like how I worried him, God bless him, like the poor thing, like, oh my God, I just was like, this is the beauty of being able to hold both. This is the beauty of being able to know what is mine and also have complete understanding for the other person's experience. And so I just apologized. I was like, I'm so sorry. I am so, so sorry. I just caught up. I explained myself. I apologized. And, what can I do? I just apologized. And, I said, I'm heading home now, whatever. And I barely even saw him because I came home. He was asleep. And then he left really, really early in the morning. I was pretty much asleep. And so we just talked on the phone the next day, and I was like, are you still mad? He was. He's still pretty mad. Still pretty upset. He was also really tired, and I just had this experience of completely understanding how he felt, and also said, like, can you please have compassion and understanding for me? Because that my intention was not to be a jerk and to keep you up and to make you worry and to, and to ruin your night before the trip. Like, that. And he did. And he was like, I do. I was just so upset. Like, I was so scared, and I know. And we just really held a lot of compassion for each other and understanding for each other, while completely also experiencing each own individual emotional experience. And I thought, wow, this is a perfect example of how the emotionally defined, the emotional authorities, and the non-emotionals are meant to coexist, like with understanding and compassion and openness. So that is myself in practice this week. Is I really had this beautiful taste, and I thank myself for and I actually, my membership were the ones who asked me to do this. I thank you guys for this topic, for suggesting this topic, because at the base of it, like, this is actually a really, really important part. And I've been in my human design experiment for a very long time. It's been, over 5 years, and that is still an area of challenge. And it is going to be an area of challenge as a non-emotional person, or as an undefined emotional person. It will always be a challenge holding and feeling the emotions of the defined emotional center. But I got a beautiful lesson in compassion this week that I think will really stick with me. All right. So are we ready to get into the meat and potatoes? Beginning the authority series. We're going to start with the emotional authority. So again, go back to the 4 pillars of your human design body graph to understand what the emotional authority is in general, in more detail. But our authority is the place in the body where we can rely on ourselves to make decisions from. Now, something that I say a million times over and over and over and over is that human design teaches us to listen to the wisdom of the body over the mind. It teaches us that our bodies hold immense wisdom. Our bodies are actually the more evolved aspect of us in a lot of ways, and the mind is here for fun. We have been conditioned into using our minds to make decisions, but our bodies actually hold that role. Our bodies are the ones that we can rely upon. Our bodies consistently give us the guidance and the wisdom in order for us to make the right decisions for ourselves. And so in human design, what is called your authority is the part of your body. It's a place in the body that holds authority in terms of your decision making. Okay. And so this is for big decisions. This isn't just for like tiny things like what should I eat? Well, okay. Scratch that because it depends. And if you're sacral authority, you could use your sacral authority for that too. So let's just say this. It's the place in your body that you can rely on consistently to guide you in terms of making decisions, aligned decisions for yourself. So we are starting with the emotional authority because it is the champion authority. It is the authority of 51%, approximately 51% of people. So by far, the most common authority that you are going to encounter in your life is the emotional authority. And the biological correlation to this, like in actual physical terms, is the nervous system. Okay. So we're going to start with, how does the emotional authority work? It's really important for you to understand what it means to be an emotional being before we even get into how do you use it? What does this actually mean for my emotional authorities? What does this look like? I want you to understand what is the emotional authority, okay? Basically, 51% of people are meant to find clarity through emotion. And I said through emotion on purpose. So when I say through emotion, what I don't mean, and what I think sometimes people with a quick understanding of human design, maybe you've never had a reading, what you might think by seeing I have an emotional authority is that I make decisions with my emotions. It actually is the complete opposite. What it means is that clarity comes to the emotional authority person when they move through their emotions into neutrality. Over time, after experiencing the various emotions that their body creates, they can find a consistency, a consistent thread through these emotions in their neutrality, and that is the right decision for them. I'm going to use a number of metaphors and analogies to help you to understand this, okay? So the most common thing that you've probably heard is emotional waves. So you can think of the emotional authority, the emotional experience of those with a defined emotional center as waves. The emotional person has waves of emotion, meaning that clarity comes not when they are in the wave, but when they return to still waters. So when the wave has started, when it's crested, when it's crashed, all of that is the through. All of that is the experience of the emotion. And only when it's back to still water can clarity be found. I love this metaphor for a number of reasons because we all understand that you don't fight a wave, right? We all understand that you don't fight currents, you don't fight a wave. It's like one classic way to drown. What you do is you ride it, you flow with it. But one of the most common things that happens to us in general in society is we fight our emotions. We suppress, repress our emotions. And it's not entirely our fault. We're taught to do this. Even as simple as when we're growing up and our parents say, stop crying. You know, if you're a millennial and you have West Indian parents, it's like, you want something to cry for? It's like, you stop emoting. You stop that. We have a very bad emotions, bad, good emotions, good. When emotions are just emotions, emotions are a mechanical process. Emotions are energy moving through the body. It's not good or bad. What we may do in reaction to them, in response to them, could maybe be considered good or bad, but the emotion is actually a bodily function, the same way that all of our other bodily functions work. That is what an emotion is. And so the emotional authority individual is actually a highly evolved individual who is here to experience life through the poetry of emotion. They are meant to experience how they feel in life around things. And as they move through this dance of these feelings, come to clarity throughout all of that experience. So another reason I love the wave analogy is that a wave can be massive. It could be a tsunami. It could be a massive wave. And then we also have small waves, right? Waves can be massive. Waves can be small, but they're always kind of flowing. Water always has movement. There's always some movement. The emotional person is always moving through some sort of emotion, whether mild to big, right? And still waters is where clarity is found, but there's always moving emotion through them. And so this is why there is a saying in human design that is, there is no truth in the now for the emotional authority. What it is a collective experience, not a singular experience. Truth is not found in a singular experience for those with an emotional authority. Truth is found as in a collective. And so another really helpful metaphor for this is to think about truth as a puzzle. Each piece fits together to create a picture. But if you just take one puzzle piece separately, you are going to have a false representation of the whole. Does that help? So if you were to just take one individual piece of the puzzle rather than the whole picture collected, you don't have truth. The truth is the collective puzzle. But does it not take time to put a puzzle together? And even if we rush through putting a puzzle together, do we not sometimes either take longer to put it together or mash together the wrong pieces? You ever seen a little kid put together a puzzle and they're just like, and you're like, I see what you think that you're doing, but the picture looks messed up. That's the horse's butt, but it's on his nose. It doesn't work. If you rush it, if you force it, none of it works. You have to let the puzzle piece to come together in its pieces. This is what the emotional authority is like. So the emotional authority is indicating to you that you make decisions by experiencing, allowing yourself to move through the various emotions that you experience, come to still waters and find the common thread that is amongst all of that experience for you. That is what the emotional authority is. And yes, in our society and the way that we're conditioned, that's really hard to hear. That's really hard to understand. That's really hard to accept. That's really hard to be patient for. It takes time. There is no way to find your truth if you are rushing yourself or mashing the pieces together. Right? So the emotional authority calls for time in order for that individual to experience the range of emotions that they experience, the way that their mechanical body is designed, the way that they are made up. They are meant to move through experience, feel through experience, find the common ground throughout that emotional range, and come to a decision through all of that experience once they are at an emotional neutral. This is the actual process of the emotional authority. So I'm going to give you an example. A really good example happened for me that really like that puzzle, the puzzle analogy came together so strongly. But Hubs and I were trying to decide a while back on a place to live, like in the world. And, we had just narrowed it down to, let's say we stay in the United States, where would we like to live? And then we happened to we happened to take a trip to Atlanta. And we live in New York City. Atlanta is a very different city. And we were staying with my cousin who lives kind of out in the boonies. And so we rented a car and we, picked up the car from the airport. And this happens pretty much every time that my husband and I are in a car. But he was like, oh, yeah, he loves cars, loves driving. We're in the car, we're cruising. He's like, this is the best. I love it. I love living in a city where you need a car. It's such an amazing thing to drive. I absolutely adore it. I love it. This is great. This is amazing. Oh, the freedom on the road. Let's just go for a drive. Let's just drive somewhere every day. And we're driving out to the boonies to go and head to my cousin's place. We stayed for like 5 days. A few days later into the trip, I start seeing him be like, how far is this place? How close is this place? Okay, well, let's go there, but then let maybe not stay too late, because then we have to drive all the way back to the boonies, like, I don't know. It's a long drive, like we have to drive everywhere, and then maybe we have to find parking. Like, hopefully there's a parking lot, like doing this whole thing. So we're in a different experience now, okay? Clue, my husband has emotional authority. So we take the car back, we to the airport, we fly home, we're back home, New York City, and my husband's like, oh man, I love being in New York City. Like, I can't imagine being in a place where you can't walk to the store. You can't just get up and walk to the store. You can't walk to the pharmacy. You should be able to walk to get everything that you need. You should not have to be able to go into a car and to buy groceries. Let's say that you need milk. Who wants to have to get into a car to buy milk? Like, having to drive, that's horrible. I can't imagine having to drive all of the time. And I'm just here on the outside observing all of this over the past week. And I'm like, I have never had a more visceral experience of seeing how the emotional authority works. He's just moving through it. It's like, I love driving. I want to drive every day, everywhere, all the time. I cannot believe that we have to drive to this place. It's half an hour away. That's too long. Everywhere is driving so far. I never want to drive. Who wants to drive all the time? 1 week later, I don't know. We were talking about, I don't know, taking a trip somewhere else, or maybe driving upstate or something like that. Ooh, I can't wait to rent a car. It's so nice to drive. It's such a great thing to have an opportunity to drive. Maybe we should buy a car. And I said, I get it. I understand what's happening here. Every emotional wave that he had, every emotional experience that he had, it was not his truth. I love driving. I want to drive every day. That was not his truth. Oh, we have to drive so far, like everywhere that we go, we have to drive. Like, that's so annoying. I can't imagine living this far away. Like, I never want to live somewhere where you have to drive so far to everything. That's not entirely his truth. Oh my gosh, I never want to have to drive. I want to live somewhere where you can just always walk to the store and walk to wherever you want to go. Also not his truth. Each of those waves was a piece of truth. And as the outsider looking in, and I stayed detached, I didn't go on the ride with him. And I've done that before, but this is my growth and my experience as a non-emotional. I'm understanding he's in a wave. I'm like, oh my gosh, watching you from the outside, this is what I saw. A little bit of truth, a little bit of truth, a little bit of truth. But while he's in the actual emotional experience, everything that he's feeling is exaggerated. It is this, it is now, it is whether it's this or it's this, it's whatever it is, it's like that's what is right now. But none of it is entirely the truth. And when we got back and some space had gone by, and a week went by and I saw us come all the way back around to excitement over renting a car, I was like, I realize what it is that I'm going to keep in mind. And I shared this with him and he was like, that is actually, yes, that feels right. And he was in an emotional neutral. He was in clear waters at that time. I'm like, all of those demonstrated a little piece of truth for you, of your experience. What seems to be ideal is my husband would love to live in a place where we have the luxury and fun of being able to drive, of having a car. It's not impossible and challenging and difficult like it is in New York City and there's nowhere to park. But you don't need to necessarily have the car to, let's say, go to the grocery store or maybe even run to a local restaurant or a local bar that we like, or grab some milk or go to the pharmacy. But there's absolutely no problem for driving to be a regular part of our lives, but not so unwalkable that you have to drive literally every single place. And also not so impossible that you don't even have anywhere to put the car, but this beautiful sweet spot of we don't need to use the car, but we use the car on a regular basis and you enjoy the joy. Like he's an excellent driver and he loves driving. Like there really is a joy that lights up in him when he's driving, when he doesn't have to all the time. And so the perfect sweet spot would be a place where it's walkable enough that we don't need to drive every day or everywhere. If we're feeling chill and we want to go out and stay close to home, we can walk or we have to grab something quick. But in general, for our needs, we have no problem driving and we have somewhere to park the car, so somewhere that is like a walkable, urban-ish suburbia. Like this seems to be the sweet spot. That is his truth. And that entire process, that experience happened over about a week's time, week to 10 days time. That is how the emotional authority works. That is a perfect example of how that was. There was no truth in any singular one of those experiences. But if he looks back on all of those experiences and found the common thread, found the string that attached it all, it became very, very clear. That is what an emotional authority is. Okay? Let me know if you have any questions whatsoever. Feel free to put any questions in the chat if anything's confusing. So that is a really perfect example of how this is meant to be. All of those emotional experiences felt real in the body. His nervous system was having a response and a reaction to the present. But the truth didn't actually lie in the present. It lay in this collective over time. And so the real way that the emotional authority person suffers is when they believe that their truth is in the emotional charge. If we had taken any one of those experiences firsthand, it would be missing out on his actual truth, right? So let's say it's like, in the end, it's like, I would never want to live somewhere where you have to drive all the time. And then it's like, oh man, I really miss driving. Because that was not the truth. The truth was not that you don't want to have that. The truth is that if you want to be able to go for a drive, you want to jump in a car and be able to go for a drive. But you don't want to have to always go for a drive. That's actually the truth. But if you believe the emotional charge, then there's no access to a car. If he believed the emotional charge in the time when he was like, I love driving, I want to drive everywhere. Let's live 5 hours out of the city so that we have to drive all the time. 1 month into that experience would be horrendous. Well, this was a mistake. I don't want to get into this car ever freaking again. We're never leaving the house. F this. That would be what would happen if he made a decision in the emotional charge, a big life decision. So this is really the challenge for the emotional authority. The suffering really does truly come when they believe that their truth is in their emotional charge. Okay? The truth is that there is no need for FOMO at all in alignment, because whatever is being offered, whatever decision needs time to make, it comes when it comes your way. So let's say it's that, you are given the opportunity to take a job and you say that you need some time to think about it. Taking our time to think about where we want to live in the world. The truth is that offer, that thing, that opportunity, whatever the thing is that this decision needs to be made around, it only appreciates as you take the time to reach the clarity for yourself. This is actually the truth. So if we use the job example, thank you for that offer. Let me go and talk to my family. Let me talk to my wife and I'll think about it and I'll get back to you. Let me talk to my partner. I'll think about it and I'll get back to you. Let me just check in on some things and I'll think about it. I really appreciate the offer. It sounds great. I'll let you know what I think. As you take your time, truly, if you are an emotional authority and you take your time to come to this decision, that party that offered you the job is like, oh my gosh, what do we have to do to keep them? Maybe should we sweeten the deal? Maybe we should let's give them a bonus. Let's put on a signing bonus. Let's promise them a raise, a 10% raise in a year and a half. Let's maybe we should offer them more money. Like, oh my gosh, that's what's actually going to happen when this is truly aligned for you. If you find yourself, those with emotional authority, if you find yourself needing to rush, and this is something that comes up really often in my one-on-one sessions with my clients, if you find yourself needing to rush yourself or being rushed by someone else, there is not alignment there. If you cannot move through your emotional experience to come to the decision that is truly right for you, it's not right for you. And, we're all about experimentation. You'll simply find yourself. One of the greatest teachers is when you find yourself in the result of having made a decision without actually waiting the right amount of time. You'll never learn faster or better. You know what I mean? So that can be part of the experience too. And that's absolutely fine. That's absolutely fine if that's what happens, but you will learn through your experience of rushing yourself. If you find that you need to pressure yourself you're going to find that you will, one, pressure yourself into something that isn't for you, or whoever is pressuring you is also probably not for you. Okay. Okay. So I hope that this is landing. I hope that these analogies, metaphors, examples are really helping to make sense of how the emotional authority works. And I want to make it clear that for the emotional authority, this is for big decisions. You don't need to wait and move through emotional waves to figure out what to eat for dinner, or to, brush your teeth, or to pick your outfit. Okay. In that case, what actually do I want to go into that? Yes, I will say this. How you actually make those shorter decisions in the moment, like just, everyday life decisions, those with an emotional authority, is with your secondary authority. And your secondary authority is, you would know if let's say that we did a reading, you would know what your secondary authority is. There is a hierarchy of authorities, and that's something that we would go into. But for example, let's say that you're a generator or you're a manifesting generator. That means you have a defined sacral. If you have an emotional center defined, it doesn't matter what type you are. Only a reflector does not have the potential of being an emotional authority. If you have your emotional center defined, that means you have an emotional authority, period. And again, look back on the 4 pillars of your human design body graph. If you have your emotional center defined, you have an emotional authority. But there is a subsequent center, the next center down on the hierarchy that is defined, that is your secondary authority. And so the order goes like this: emotional solar plexus, sacral, spleen, ego, G center. Okay? And then after that, we get into different kinds of authorities that are not called inner authorities. So let's say that you're a manifesting generator or a generator. I use the example of my partner. So he is a manifesting generator. So for everyday life decisions, it's his sacral. It's an aha or So what would you like for dinner? I would ask, like, hey, babe, do you want pizza or do you want sushi? Sushi. Sacral response, right? Do you want something cold? Mm-mm. Do you want something hot? This is how those kind of like more immediate decisions would be made. Okay. So the emotional authority, you do not have to wait. You do not need to go through your emotional range when you're making small decisions. This is really for big decisions, relationships. Like, do I want to go to that event? Do I want to host a party? Do I want to buy a car? Do I want to move to that city? Do I want to have a baby? Like, these are the things that you need to move through your emotions for. Okay. So now let's get into the really juicy, important part. How do you use it? What does this actually look like for the emotional authority folks? What does it actually look like for you when you have an emotional authority? Meaning that the way that you make decisions is allowing yourself to move through the emotional waves that you experience, allowing yourself to find clarity through your emotions, moving through the various emotional waves that you experience until you reach a neutral, until you reach clear waters, and finding clarity amongst the entire experience. That is the way that emotional authorities are meant to make decisions. So what does that actually look like in real life? What it looks like is becoming emotionally literate. And the beautiful way that I was taught, and I'm gonna teach this to you exactly the way that I was taught, because I think it is so clear, it is so crystal, it is so beautiful. Emotional beings, start asking yourself what, not why. We seek the why in general. This is all of us in society. We seek the why of our emotions to bypass or end the emotion. Why is that happening? I'm feeling sad. Let's say you find yourself feeling sad. It's like, why? What happened? Why am I feeling sad? Well, that lady at work, she's so rude and she spoke to me like this, and this is why I'm feeling sad. If I can figure it out why I'm feeling sad, I can solve the problem. What is the problem? My emotion. How can I solve the problem of my emotion? I figure out why. But your emotional experience is not a story. Your emotional experience as an emotional being is a mechanical process. You are a being who is meant to experience emotional range in this life, highs and lows. And as you move through these highs and lows, you get a piece of your truth about things that matter to you. And when you let yourself move through these emotions, you will come to clarity from the collective of the experience. We so often treat, and I am so guilty of this, and this is so much an issue for non-emotional beings, because we are the number ones to pressure an emotional being into stopping it. Stop. Don't feel that. Stop it. I don't want to feel this anymore. You're making me uncomfortable. Can you tone it down? Can you cut it out? Can you stop crying so much? Why are you so overreactive? Well, we're actually 10 times more reactive in that moment, but it's like, make it stop. And so, suppress. Repress. Push it down. We often think of emotions as primitive. But one of the very first things that I ever learned when I entered the world of personal development, and this was from Abraham Hicks, everything that we desire because we think that we will feel good in the having of it. That is something that Abraham Hicks says directly. Everything we want, we believe we will feel better in the having of it. Everything that we're driven towards it because we think it's going to make us feel good. Feel good. Feel good. Feel. Not think good. Feel good. We are actually driven by the desire to enjoy our emotional experience. There's nothing primitive about it. It's actually what is at the core of every single human being's purpose. So when we need to ask why, figure out why, so that we can make our emotions stop, you bypass the experience. You don't get the piece of truth that you need for the whole. You push it down, you push it away, and you slow down the process. You completely slow down the process. So this is the thing. When you don't want to feel the emotion, when you want to do anything to not have to experience the emotion, you actually slow down the entire decision-making process. Because now you are not actually moving through the mechanical experience that you need to in order to get to your clear waters, in order to find each of those puzzle pieces and create a picture. You have no pieces. What you have is no pieces. You are attempting to have no pieces of the puzzle and then say, what should I do? What am I supposed to do? Well, what would you do? Well, what does society say that I should do? And then find yourself in the result of that choice and be disappointed, be unsatisfied, dissatisfied, be frustrated. Okay? So the key here for my emotional authorities is to truly embrace that you are an emotional being. that you were designed with emotional range. And that emotional range is a mechanical process that allows for you to find clarity through experiential sensation. How can you do that? You ask what, not why. What is this emotion that I'm feeling? What is it trying to teach me or tell me? What am I unclear on? Because if your body is moving you through an emotional wave, it is attempting to find a decision. It is basically your signifier. Instead of, a lot of my clients, they'll find themselves in an emotional experience and it's like, oh shit, I'm having a negative emotional wave. I'm moving through emotions. It's like, ugh. Instead of like, oh, there must be something that I'm unclear on. There's something that my body is taking me through the process of finding clarity on. My body is moving me through the decision-making process. Yay. Let me go for this freaking ride. What am I unclear on? How can I fully feel this feeling in my body? Basically, how can I help myself to experience this so that I get the puzzle piece that I'm looking for? Not my full truth, not make a story out of it, not make conflict out of it, not burn down the world because of it, not be reactive because of it, not push it away, not stuff it down. But how can I fully feel and move through this experience to gain the wisdom of it? Something very fascinating, and I have a lot of emotional authority folks in my life for some reason, and I think that that's my personal lesson. One of my great lessons in this world is to really, basically like myself in practice, is really to be able to hold space and understanding and compassion for other people's emotional experience. And so I think that I was surrounded by people with an emotional authority to give me that challenge, because it's true that it is very uncomfortable at times. But it actually teaches me so much, and it teaches me so much about myself. It teaches me so much about the truth in general. This truth that is for the emotional authority, that there really isn't truth in the now, is actually a bit of a truth for all of us. That emotions are just meant to experience, that they are mechanical, that they are bodily functions. That is a lesson for every single one of us. We make so many stories in our life trying to avoid and fight emotion, when truthfully it's just information. And truthfully, it's actually the stuff of greatness. We want positive emotion. We just don't want negative emotion. But all of it is experiential, because the truth is, and this is a common question that we get, is a misunderstanding for those with an emotional authority. It's not just you can't make decisions when you're in a negative emotional wave. Also, in an emotional high, it's not your truth. So remember that example that I said with my husband and the car. I love driving. Not all the time. Not when you have to. You like the option to not have to. But that was a high, and it was fun. We had a great time. We had a convertible. Like we had a great time, The high can be intoxicating. And it's like, I feel great. Let's make a decision in this. Yeah. That's also not the full truth. But it is a delicious experience. And there is a delicious experience that can happen in the emotional low. There is some of my most romantic times with myself, and honestly, delicious times with myself, have been in melancholy. Just snuggling up on the couch, doing the whole self-care thing, watching a K-drama, which I absolutely love. Like, just some of the most loving, truly wonderful experiences with myself have actually been catalyzed by sadness. Some of my favorite movies are massive. Honestly, all of my favorite movies make me cry. Why do I love that? Have you ever seen a piece of art that makes you cry? There's beauty in all of it, but it's meant to be experienced, not used to make a story, not used for a belief system, not used and avoided, right? It is meant to be experienced, because that is what being a human is all about. And so something that I find really, really fascinating is that a lot of people with an emotional authority have a very difficult time naming their emotions because of how much they have suppressed and repressed emotions, and because the emotional experience for them is happening all the time, right? So the experience of emotion for me as an open emotional center is so much more intense than that person who is creating the emotion. And so when you're constantly waving, it's kind of like, the whole joke of like a fish in water. A fish is like, what's water? How does it know what water is? It's in it. It's like, what's water? It, the thing that you're in all the time, huh? It's like it just is, you know? And so this actually is one of the challenges for those with emotional authority. So all of you with an emotional authority, learn to name your emotions. Seriously, right? This is something I am a mental health occupational therapist. Something that I was taught in schooling that we use in my career is emotion wheels with clients. Looking at the emotional wheel and being able to identify, what emotion am I feeling? And some of the emotional wheels out there can get really, really micro, like sub emotions under emotions. It can be really great. What is the emotion that you're experiencing? Can you name it? And when I say name it, I mean name the emotion. Like, oh my gosh, this happens all the time. I'll ask the emotional authority person, like, what are you feeling? And they'll say, well, it's like she came over, and it's just like, what do you mean that you were going to just walk into my house with your shoes on and track mud? And I'm like, wait, I hear you. That's the story. But I said, what are you feeling? Not why are you feeling it? And not what is it, what did you make it mean, or what is the story around it? What are you feeling? Um, I don't know. Annoyed? Annoyed? And truly what it is, like, we'll, really sit with it in the feeling and the experience of it. And it might be something like, oh, I feel betrayed. Actually, I feel disrespected because you have a certain standard for your home that I always treat. And then, and you have a different standard for my home. It's like, oh, that actually felt a bit like betrayal, like disrespect. Like, oh, interesting. There's information there. Right? So start learning to actually recognize what it is you're feeling, rather than spending so much time on creating the story, rather than going into the why. And all you're doing is fueling the emotion anyways. If you want this experience to move, you need to move through it, not just extend it. And so that is the thing that a lot of emotional authority individuals find themselves doing. You guys will either try to get rid of the emotion and not experience it, or just fuel it by the story. When the truth is, you want to move through it, experience it, learn. You will actually get faster to the decision that you're trying to make when you feel your emotions. If you do not move the emotion through your nervous system, remember, what is the physical, the biological correlation to the emotional authority? It's the nervous system. So you're not actually going to move your emotion through your nervous system if you're conceptually bypassing it and using the mind. You have to actually feel the emotion. Allow it to move through that part of your body that allows you to make decisions. Move through it so that you can gain the wisdom, find the piece of the puzzle, and then put all the pieces together. If you do not do that, you are conceptually bypassing and you are using the mind, and you're not going to be able to find clarity. You're going to be guessing and you're going to find yourself out of alignment. Okay? As a society as a whole, we are so afraid of being uncomfortable. My biggest area of growth this year so far was saying to myself, coming to this place within myself where I said, I am no longer afraid of being afraid. The whole world of opportunities opened up to me after that. So much became available to me after that. I am no longer afraid of being afraid. If I'm not afraid of being afraid and I'm willing to be afraid, there's a whole lot of things that I'm willing to try. There are a whole lot of things that I'm willing to say yes to. There is a whole lot of capacity that I'm willing to allow myself to stretch into, expand into, when I'm not so afraid of being uncomfortable, when I'm not so afraid of avoiding being afraid. It's like, I'm scared. Okay, here we go. Yeah, I'm afraid. I care about that. I'm afraid. I love me. I also want this. Let's go. I'm not afraid of being afraid. I can be afraid and I can take care of myself. I can be afraid and I can trust my authority. I can be afraid and I can soothe myself. I can be afraid and use my resources. I can be afraid and get help. I can be afraid and be courageous and then be proud. And then I can be afraid again. I can be afraid of a lot of freaking things. If that is going to be the thing that is my deciding factor on whether I accomplish what I want or not, I'm willing to be afraid. But we are so protective of ourselves when it comes to being uncomfortable. But some of the greatest lessons have come to me in my life because I was willing to be uncomfortable. Some of them I wasn't willing to be uncomfortable, but they were uncomfortable because that's freaking life. That's the other aspect, is that we are trying to avoid something that is completely impossible. So why not move through it with grace? Why not move through it with awareness? Why not move through it with consciousness? Why not move through it and receive wisdom? Because there's no avoiding being uncomfortable in this life. I mean, if you want to expand, and even in that case, no matter how small you try to make your life, we're still uncomfortable, because then we're disappointed, because then we're lonely, because then we're bored, then we're whatever. It's impossible. And so if we remove this aspect of trying so our darndest to avoid being uncomfortable, the truth is, for those with an emotional authority, you actually get to your decision faster. The faster, the more willing, the more open that you are to allowing your system, your nervous system, to do the mechanical thing that it's meant to do, you get the pieces of the puzzle that you need to make the picture, to find the clarity, to make the decision. Okay? What is another very helpful way to bring on this journey with you? Start journaling. But I don't mean Journaling in the way that you think. This is another thing that I was taught. Journal your thoughts, not your feelings. Emotional authority folks, you guys are feeling all the time, right? Emotions are part of your experience. It's almost like we're avoidant of the emotion and we're obsessed with the emotion. It's like I'm obsessed with wanting to not feel what I feel. And also I'm desperately avoiding. It's like this scrambling between these two experiences. It's like the feeling I'm feeling. But remember, the feeling isn't actually the truth. It's just the mechanics of moving through that experience so that you can get a piece of truth. What is actually fascinating is what you are thinking at that time. So if you start writing down your thoughts, so I'm in a low wave. Let's say that we have the example of the car, choosing where to live. And it's like I'm in the high wave, and the thoughts that I was thinking is, it's amazing to drive long distances. I absolutely love driving. I love going past the trees. It was so amazing to see all the trees go by. I love the wind. I love the freedom of me on the road. Okay. And then you're feeling a low of like, oh God, is there going to be parking? It's complete drudgery to be able to have to plan ahead in advance whenever you're driving. I have to think so much. I have to put extra time. Sometimes I just want things to be close. You write it all down. Move through all the waves, getting back into the city. It's like, I never want to be in a place where you have to drive. I just want to be somewhere where you can walk everywhere. Write down the thoughts. It's so amazing to be able to just walk and get some milk. Write down all of these thoughts, right? So now you look at this journal with all of these thought forms that have changed as the emotion shifted. You look back at this and it's like, whoa. Not, I felt sad, I felt happy, I felt excited, I felt sad. What truth are you going to find in that? It's like, okay, I am bipolar. Like, that's all you get from that. Okay, I feel a lot of emotions. If you look at all of those thoughts, you can find, oh, wow, I really enjoy driving. I hate having to add extra time to everything. Sometimes I just want to be quick. Sometimes I enjoy the open road. It feels like a lot of pressure when I have to drive. Wow, I think the perfect thing for me is when I have the option to drive, but not necessarily every day. I have the option to drive. It's easy to park, but it's not absolutely necessary for us to use the car for everywhere. We can find a place like that. Somewhere between suburbia and, a city, like sweet spot. Clarity. Clarity came as the common denominator was found through the thoughts. So those with an emotional authority, start journaling your thoughts, not your feelings. You are going to feel emotion. You are going to feel an emotional, you're going to have emotional range. That is a given. Look at how the thought forms change throughout all of those experiences. Okay? Another really helpful tool. It is so important. All of this is coming down to, it is so important to give yourself, and honestly, this is also for non-emotionals like myself, those with an open emotional center. We have to start giving people permission to feel their emotions. And I'm so guilty of this. Stop. I am so uncomfortable. Please. It is so intense. I can't handle it. It is not that emotional person's fault that I am uncomfortable in my body around that emotion. They don't have a choice. In my post, when I posted for this live, I kind of made a joke about having no choice. It's true. Emotional people don't have a choice in their emotion. Where the choice lies is how you act. Where the choice lies is how you speak to people, how you treat people, what you do in that emotional experience. The choice doesn't lie in the fact that you have emotional range, and you should not have to apologize to that to yourself or to someone else. Where the responsibility is in what you do with that emotion. Being a responsible adult being emotionally intelligent enough to name the emotion, own it, take responsibility, and give yourself the experience that you need to move through it. On both sides, it needs to start being okay with us that emotions occur. We are emotional beings. We just only like to admit that when it's in the high emotional end, but the entire experience is the deliciousness of life. The entire experience. And the most attractive, like all of the sex gate, like not even sex. A lot of the sex gates are inside of the sacral center, but the romance gates, the sensuality gates, the music, the experience, the art, that's all in the emotion center. These are the sexiest people on the planet. These are the most delicious people on the planet. These are the most intoxicating people on the planet. Why? Because of the charge. Why are telenovelas so popular? Why do I love freaking K-dramas? We love it. We just don't want to feel it. You know? It has to be okay. Where the responsibility lies is learning to process the emotion, to move through the emotion with responsibility, not story, and allow it to give us the wisdom that it comes with. And having grace. I mean, it's not going to be perfect. There are going to be times when you're going to say things that you don't mean, right? Or you maybe blew up because you really have had a lot of repressed emotion. And to be honest, at this point, I work with adults. I don't work with children when it comes to human design. But by the time that you come to this as an adult, as an emotional authority, you already have repressed emotion. Most likely, as a child, the experience that you had, unless you had a very emotional parent, which actually might work in the same way to repress you because you saw emotions used in the wrong way. So it's either you saw emotions used in the wrong way and you want to avoid it, or you had a parent without an emotional authority, they didn't have an emotional center, and they were like, stop, stop, cut it out, stop crying. Either way, there is often a lot of repressed emotion. And so we get into the unhealthy realm with emotions when we have a lot of repressed emotions. We are not in the unhealthy realm when we're just moving through emotions. Emotional authority individuals are actually the ones who move through the emotions faster. I can tell you this from personal experience with my clients, with my friends, with my family. That is the place where I see it. You really will see it the most is with your friends and your family. Huge blow up. I grew up with an emotional sibling. Huge blow up, said super mean things to me like, blah, and I'm like, ugh. 2 hours later, do you want to play? And I'm like, I thought you hated me. I thought it was the worst. That you were so mean. You're so mean. What do you mean, do I want to play now? I'm fine now. They're over it. They're completely over it, and I'm still here holding a grudge. Because emotions pass. Emotions pass. It's a wave. It rolls, it waves, it comes, it goes. Us with the open emotional center, we're the ones who are holding on to. How dare you? But you spoke to me like that. And I'm not making excuses for inappropriate behavior. I am not making excuses for inappropriate behavior. But emotions pass. The more comfortable you get, those with emotional authority, the more comfortable you get with naming, owning, experiencing your emotion, moving through the emotion, the more comfortable you'll get with, ooh, I am feeling pissed off. This is not the time for this conversation. Excuse me. I really don't want to talk right now. Or I need to go and create. I need to bang something out on the piano. I'm going to go scream. I'm going to draw. You know what I mean? Whatever, the more you name and own the emotional experience, the more you find yourself just allowing it to pass through you. And then in clarity, being able to have a deeper conversation, being able to, even this is something that I found through my own personal experience. And I don't have an emotional authority. Okay. I'm a non-emotional. I have a splenic authority. But something that I found through my own experience, because I have a lot of melancholy in my chart. I have a lot of individual circuitry, which comes with the experience of melancholy. Melancholy is a sadness out of nowhere. There's no story, but I can mess myself up if I try to make a story about why I'm feeling what I'm feeling. The truth is, whenever I'm experiencing melancholy, it is an indication that I need to create something. It is a creative force. It's another mechanical force that is moving through me. Something wants to be created. What I've experienced in my own intimate relationships is when I am in melancholy and I'm fighting it, where I'm like, I'm just in a mood. I woke up in a mood, or just for whatever reason, I find myself in a mood. If I want to pretend that I'm not upset, I get aloof. I get like passive aggressive. I get like, I'm fine. I just get kind of like silent, standoffish. I have this charge. I'm now getting bitter, okay, as a projector. So now I'm moving into my not self theme because I won't even admit that I'm just feeling meh. And I'm just, bitterness is oozing off of me. I'm not talking to my husband. I'm just being like standoffish. And I could start a fight. I could. Or I become a person that you just don't want to be around. Or it will spark an emotional wave in him. Like it will lead to like an unnecessary conflict experience. If I say, so I'm feeling melancholy. If I just say, my husband's like, what's wrong? And I'm like, I don't know. I have no idea, but I feel totally pooty. I just, I need a chill time. I need a rest day. I need to play. I need to whatever. This man will go out of his way to accommodate whatever it is to fuel whatever I need. What do you need? What do you want to do? Do you want a treat? Do you want me to get you a treat? How about this? I'll draw you a bath. I'm not kidding. Like, I'll draw you a bath. Or do you want to watch K-drama? I'm not even using the TV. I just had it on in the background. Here's a blanket. Here, you watch your shows. Do you want me to make you something? All I had to do was just say that I'm feeling pooty. Huh. And then I just sink into the deliciousness of my pooty experience. And in that delicious feeling, wrapped up in a blanket, watching a K-drama, in the bath, soaking in the tub, just being, something creative will come to mind. Something awesome will come to mind. Something fun will come to mind. I'll get the splenic hit of something that I really want to do. And for some reason, he loves it. That makes no sense to me. But now it makes perfect sense. Because it's just truth. It's not good or bad. There's nothing wrong with it. It just is. I'm just experiencing the experience of being a freaking human. The experience of being a human is an emotional experience, period. Whether you were emotional or not. Because if you're emotional, you're experiencing the emotions your body creates. And if you're not emotional, you're experiencing the emotional their bodies create. And your emotions. It is human to have emotions. Where we get into trouble is when we create the stories around it and we blame people and we dump on people and we start conflict and we repress and we force and we numb and we detach and we make decisions from the mind and we believe whatever that emotional experience is necessarily telling us as an ultimate truth. This is where we run into the problem, but not because of the actual emotion itself. That is not actually the problem. Okay? I hope that this provided so much more clarity. I hope that this helped. If you have any questions whatsoever, it's a great time to put them into the chat. And I'll be happy to answer them. So a helpful reflective question for my emotional authorities. I want you to ask yourself, if you find yourself in your not self theme, if you're a generator or manifesting generator, you find yourself in frustration, ask yourself, did I make a decision while I was feeling emotionally charged? And remember, an emotional charge does not mean angry. An emotional charge can be elated. It can be anything. It's your friend. You're in one heck of a great mood for whatever reason. You're flying high and your friend calls and is like, I'm planning an impromptu trip next week. You want to come with me? We're going to Bora Bora. And you're like, yeah, I'm going. And you book the flight. And you wake up the next day and you are not feeling flying high. You were feeling like, I have 4 clients on that weekend. It's a completely different time zone. I have no idea how I'm supposed to do it. What was I thinking? So an emotional charge is not just low. An emotional charge is anywhere that is not neutral, anywhere that is not clear waters. So did I make a decision when I was in emotional charge? I did. Okay. So now I will write out the results of making this decision in an emotional charge, and I will remember to experience my emotions fully in the next time. And we will go back to that really, really helpful tool of asking what, not why. What am I feeling? What is this emotion? What is it trying to teach me or telling me? What am I unclear on? How can I fully feel this feeling in my body? Okay. And move through the emotions. And over time, you will find your truth. So one last helpful thing that I want to share for those with an emotional authority is that all this is 100% so far. I'm open to, any person's experience. So please share with me if this is not your experience. But at this point, 100% of the emotional authorities in my life, clients, friends, family, they concur with the experience that they are never entirely 100% sure in a decision. So I don't want to confuse you with this, but I want you to understand yourself. And I want you to not other yourself, make yourself wrong. It goes back to that wave metaphor. And this is why these metaphors are so powerful. That wave metaphor, where if you think of water, even when it's still, unless it's unhealthy water, there is movement. There is movement. Even if it's gentle movement, right? Even a gentle river. And then there's movement. But this is also movement. So because the emotional experience is always there to a certain degree, even when you are in the place of readiness to make the decision, it is never quite 100%. What they report it feeling like is a knowingness that this is right. It's almost like, I know that this is right for me, and I'm a little nervous. I know that this is right for me, and it's like, but I know. I think we can all kind of understand that experience. Let me think of even investing in my human design certification program. It was a big investment, and I knew that it was right. I knew that it was right for me. And I was also like, oh my God, this is huge. Can I do this? Should I do this? So if I think of that experience, I understand that feeling of like, but I knew. Like I knew that it was right. But there's still gonna feel a little bit of like, okay. That is still the rightness of that decision for you. And this will probably make more sense to emotional authority people watching than those without an emotional authority. But I know you know what I mean. If you can think back to a decision that you've made that was truly the right decision for you, feel into it, and you're gonna realize, like, yeah, there's always still that little like, but like, I know it's time. I know it's this. I know that this is right for me. It's just, there's always a little like, but what if? Let's see. Okay. So think 88%. It's a great number. 80. You'll feel 88% sure. There's a knowingness. It's just never necessarily 100%. That is normal for your experience. So I know that this was a long one. Sorry, guys. This one went long. But the emotional authority is something that I spend a lot of time on with clients. A lot of time on. It can be really challenging for those with an emotional authority because we really have a pretty fucked up relationship with emotions in our society on all forms. And even partial responsibility for that is the spiritual community, the spiritual lens. Like our obsession, if you've ever heard of spiritual bypassing or toxic positivity, like we have an over obsession with positive emotion to the point where we repress negative emotion, pretend that it isn't there. And so this is why it is so important to understand that emotions are information, that emotions are mechanical, that emotions are a bodily experience, just like going to the bathroom. Like it is not good or bad. It makes us human. It gives us the potential to enjoy, to experience, to feel, to love. To live is to feel. Where we get to use our consciousness is our ownership about how will we act in response to our emotions. But our emotions aren't bad in the actual experience of it. And so I spent a lot more time because this is something that I spend a lot of time on. And I mean with like badass freaking successful women, the emotional authority is still that thing that's like, but God damn it, I'm so damn emotional. I'm just not sure. Yes, society told you that you're supposed to do when something's right for you, you just know, make decisions quickly. That is a lie. That is a lie. And actually something really annoys me about that. So let me like breathe. But I noticed that it's very much trending a lot on social media for people to be glorifying making fast decisions. If it's right for you, you'll just know. Maybe for you, if it's right for you, you'll just know. For a lot of people, that is a surefire way to find yourself in a situation you're going to freaking regret. Signs of differentiation. We are all unique. We are not here to make decisions in the same way. And 50%, 51% of the population, that's not right for you. So there's a very high chance that people consuming that stuff on social media, you're consuming content that is telling you something that is not right for you. And if you are an emotional high at that moment, which maybe they know, but if you're an emotional high at that moment, and you read that and it pumps you up and you say, yeah, and you buy, you're going to freaking regret it. The things that are right for you are happy for you to take the time for you to make that decision. And that's for everything that is right for you. When it comes to making larger decisions, it can wait. In fact, you are that much more desirable in the waiting for it. You are worth the wait. Okay? The more you practice this, the more you live this. Authority is lived, it's not thought. So all the mental questions that are coming up right now, that's fine. And we will answer them and we can talk about them. Pop them into the chat, put them into the comment section. I'm happy to dive into them, but this is a lived experience. You need to live it. How do you live it? You feel. Start feeling. There are many different ways to learn to process your emotions. My favorite is parts work. That's what we dive into a lot in my Collective Perspective membership. The beauty of that membership is that we learn about human design. So you understand your design so that you can actually start living by design, walking in your human design experiment. So get out into the world and experiment. We have a daily practice. We have a practice in our regular life of contemplation, of sitting with things, having beautiful conversations like this, debating, sharing, feeling out loud. It's a safe space to emote. It's a safe space to feel emotions. We have a practice of how we walk through our lives living while in our experiment. And we also have this beautiful practice of looking face on, like head first, bringing up everything that we feel and befriending it. We don't make an enemy of our emotions. We don't make an enemy of any of the parts of our experience. Actually, they are the wisest parts of us. The most brilliant things that have come out of my mouth have often come from my own part. Having a parts work experience with myself, having a subconscious conversation, having a dialogue with my subconscious self, dropped bombs. Like, so wise. So wise. There's so much wisdom inside of our emotional experience. And then this is where we get to zoom out and use our wise self, our grounded self, to examine all of the wise tidbits that we're given to be able to find clarity. That is your gift. That is your gift, emotional authorities. And it is a beautiful, beautiful gift. You are here to offer the opportunity for empathy in this world. You are here to offer like a living experience of the richness of life. And the saddest thing would be to deny that of yourself. Just as delicious you are in your highest of emotions, you are no less incredible in your lowest of lows. The pain comes in the repression. The pain comes in the avoidance. There's something to learn. There's something to teach. There's something to share. And the more that you can actually move through that experience, the more that you start walking as a powerful example of emotional intelligence. Powerful example of emotional intelligence once you learn to actually process the emotions. And I don't want you to think that you also only have to do this alone. You can be in an emotional experience and be like, I just need to talk. Can you just listen? You have that friend. It's not every friend. There's not everybody. And please don't force people or judge people if they don't have the space. They might not. But there's that friend. There's maybe your mom. There's somebody. But ownership around it. I just need to be heard. Can I just talk shit for a minute? Sure. Hey, sometimes it's freaking fun. Sometimes it's freaking fun. And if that person has had enough, set them free. Let that be okay. And then go and find a way to express your emotions in other ways. Just do not bypass. And come and tell me. I promise you, the more ownership you take, the faster that you allow yourself to move through the emotions, the faster you come to your clarity. This is where your wisdom lies. This is where the catch-22 is. And of course, 100%. One, if none of this made any sense to you and you feel like, I think that might be me, and you'd like to book a reading, come and book a reading. We go really, really deep, and I will teach you specifically what your emotional wave looks like, your specific, because there are different types of emotional waves, what is more likely to trigger a wave for you, and we will work on exactly how you can manage that experience for yourself, and we will work on you processing your emotion, finding ways for you to process your emotion, and all the nuances of that. That is absolutely something that we can do in a reading. And if this is something that is an ongoing experience for you and you want to find ways of really coping, but beyond cope, it's not like you just want to cope. You want to really learn how to become an expert at your decision-making process. All of us maximize our potential in this world when we know how to use our authority. Making decisions alone is probably like the number one thing that people even come to me for coaching for. They might not say that. It might not be like, I'd like to sign up for coaching because I don't know how to make decisions, but underneath it, that's what we're working on. So if you find yourself struggling in how to make decisions in general, this is an excellent thing that we can work on in coaching. Really connect you with that part of yourself that is your consistent, reliable place, your source, your inner GPS, your compass for you to make decisions. Finding a way to really build a relationship with that aspect of yourself, and you start really, really showing up as a bright light in your world. And then as an everyday life practice in a space where you want community, where you want to learn from other people, where you want to see other people in action with it, like where you want to actually be able to relate to others and have a space where, especially with you, if you don't have a lot of people that you can express to, that you feel like you actually, it's safe for you to have your emotions, because this is the truth. Like, people struggle with emotions, period. So if you want a safe space to be the emotional being that you are, or even if you're struggling as a non-emotional and it's like, I don't know how to hold space for that, come into the collective perspective, talk about it, come and talk to us about it. We work on it together, and you grow, and you bring this into the forefront of your life. And also in the same way, watch yourself also flourish because of that, because you're bringing this as a priority in your life. The way that you show up in life is not guarded, is not repressed, is not exactly as we were talking about, where it's like everyone's afraid of being afraid, everyone's afraid of being uncomfortable. The sooner that we can befriend the emotional experience of being a human, which is the only experience of being a human, the far more powerful you are and the highest potentiality we start walking in. So any of those spaces, if that really resonates with you, all of the links are inside of the description box. And also feel free to book a 20-minute clarity call, and we can talk about what space you think would actually be best for you. I'm more than happy to help you to figure that out if you have questions and you're not exactly sure where to go from there. I'm happy to have a conversation, and we can set you in the right direction. So that was a long first one. Series, authority series, session number 1, emotional authority on a silver platter. Let me know your questions. Let me know your thoughts. Share your examples. Tell me everything. And I love you. And I will see you next week with the Sacral Authority. Next up is the second most popular authority, the Sacral Authority. So we're going to come in with that next. And I can't wait to see you. Have a wonderful Thursday evening. Have a wonderful weekend. I hope to see you in any of the spaces that I mentioned, or to see you right here. All my love. Until next time. Ciao.